my name is Britt Hedlund, and this is Module 1 of EDL 850. So, the first thing I want you to know about me is that I am the Harper County Transition to Career Coordinator, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. I am a mom. First and foremost, I have three kiddos. I have Faith, who will be a sophomore at K-State, and she's on the rowing team there. I have Eli, who will be a senior at Chaparral and plays football and wrestles. And then I have Ethan, who will be a freshman at Chaparral, and he is my cowboy. I'm an educator. I graduated from Northwestern Oklahoma State University a really long time ago. And after graduation, I taught special education in an interrelated classroom. And then in Phoenix, I taught a short time deaf and hard of hearing students. And then I retired for a while to be a mom and to have these kiddos. And then I went back to work about 8 or 9 years ago, teaching second grade and then sixth grade at my kids' school, which was a private school in Wichita at the time. About 6 years ago, we moved to Anthony, Kansas, where we live now, and I work at Chaparral and Attica schools. So I'm also a learner. I love to learn. I decided about 8 months ago to go back to school and get my master's, even though I'm probably too old, but I love to learn. I love to gain knowledge. I love to study leadership and really just anything that makes student success happen. And I also really believe that the best way for me to learn is to teach. So I love to learn. Okay, as I said, I'm the Transition to Career Coordinator, and what that is a position that the two Harper County schools came together and formed several years ago, and to promote and help students become exposed to careers and college readiness and post-secondary success. So I work for two school districts. I work for Attica High School, which is a small 1A school on the west side of the county and has about 50 students in their high school. And then I work at Chaparral High School, which is a 3A school and has about 235 students. So basically what I do is career exposure, and I do that in several different ways. I bring in speakers to talk about careers. I organize job shadows, internships, and just really any kind of work-based learning that helps students develop out their IPS and figure out what they want to do after school. We know that the earlier students get focused, the longer they stay focused. So a lot of career exposure. So this module was about government control of public education, and we started with the federal government. In the beginning, the federal government didn't have a lot of control over education. It was formed just to bring our country together and provide prosperity and opportunity to the citizens. The 10th Amendments kind of rules at the beginning with federal government, because there was no amendment that was written for education, so that makes it fall under the 10th Amendment. But later, around the Supreme Court versus the Board of Education in the 1954, the 14th Amendment kind of took over, providing equal protection of the laws to all citizens. And like in the 1960s, the federal government started having more of a role in public education. In 1965, they passed the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, giving funding to states and schools when they met the outlined requirements, such as Title I, and which included Title I and Title VI and Title VII. In 1975, the federal government passed the IDEA, which is Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. In 2001, No Child Left Behind was passed, which required states to be more rigorous in their evaluation and testing. And then when Obama was president. There was a few other legislations passed, Race to the Top and Common Core, and those were both initiatives to help schools who didn't perform well with No Child Left Behind. And then in 2015, the government passed the Every Student Succeeds Act, which resulted in the testing belonging to the states. So there's four basic functions of the government. The federal government's role, and that's to set policy that relates to funding. And since our government does put in a little over $1 trillion toward public education, they have to have a little bit of accountability for that. They collect data and conduct research, identify problems to help states take action, and ensure that every child receives the same quality of education. Some examples that the federal government does would be that they ensure that resources are used effectively and they protect civil rights. They provide accountability to states, provide information to the public about schools. They look for ways to support and continually improve education, and they ensure that federal laws don't interfere with state laws. And then state government has their own Department of Education funding. They provide less than half of the school operating budget, and states have an elected or an appointed state board of education. Some examples for the state board would be, or the state government would be provide and allocate funding for public schools, set standards for assessments and curriculum, oversee disability services. They license all private, public, and charter schools. They license teachers, administration, staff, nurses, things like that. And then they elect the state school board members. Then our local government, which has the most control and provides the most funding. They have a local school board to decide how schools will operate. The local government funds around half of the needed budget, and they do that through property taxes and local taxes. And then they are involved in policymaking and administration. I think the most important thing that the local government does is work closely with the community and parents, bringing communities together locally to provide the best education for students and the most student success. Some examples of that would be develop school policies, set and adopt a local school budget, employ the superintendent, this is a school board, oversee and adopt curriculum, accept bargaining agreements, and then determine policies for hiring staff. I really liked the article that was about local control and parent involvement that we read. I think they brought up some really good points about the pros and cons of strengthening and weakening local government. When we reduce local government, we have lower education costs, we reduce bureaucracy, maybe expand programming, and maybe improve academic quality, consistency, and teaching effectiveness. But when you increase local control, you improve academic quality and teaching effectiveness. You increase local pride, civic participation and funding support, and then you improve teaching and student performance. And what I see locally here is when we have a strong local school board and local government over our schools, economic development happens in a positive way. Students come back to their community because they have pride in it. And it really just is a win-win for the whole community. So our Board of Education, like I said, I work in 2 different schools, and I'll just talk about Chaparral's today. Chaparral Schools is a combination of Anthony and Harper, 2 communities in the county. We have around 1,000 students, about 70 teachers, and our school board is comprised of 7 members. Our school board's goal is, of their administration, is to create an environment in which all the students demonstrate continuous academic improvement. They provide a strong focus on graduation and post-secondary success, which is one of the reasons they created my position. They encourage community involvement by having a concerns and challenges form on our website where they can, where community members and parents can fill out this form and send it to the school board so they can address issues that are important to our community and parents. Um, the school board approves building goals, curriculum. It studies and adopts the school budget. Our school board hires and supervises the superintendent. Our school board approves all of the hires in our districts, and they take recommendations from the board attorney. They oversee any architecture plans if needed, and they consider all of the monthly annual reports. And they do meet monthly, the second Monday of every month. How they communicate with the community is they have a page on our website, on the USD 361 website. It includes meeting minutes. They also, and meeting agendas. They also put the meetings in the local paper, and they stream their meeting on Facebook, so everybody can be a part of it. How they keep up with technology is they have a technology director who reports to them each month at the board meeting. How they work on student success right now is strong. I feel like they work hard to provide strong professional development to our teachers that help us understand our student population better. And we also have a school climate grant, which is data driven and has a support staff that actually collects data and looks for a way to improve our culture and climate. Our board manual includes policies, like tons of policies, of course, but for attendance, bullying, academic achievement, all those things that ensure student and teacher success. So, my personal experience with these three forms of government, with the federal government, I don't have a lot of experience. I don't have any experience, honestly, besides just recently really hearing and learning about all of the No Child Left Behind, not No Child Left Behind, critical race theory and all the things that are happening in the state government. With the state government, my personal experience kind of relies or kind of is with KBOR more than KSDE, because in my program we've added several post-secondary programs like welding and automotive and CNA, and I've kind of pushed hard to have our state government look closely at the boundaries that they've set for our post-secondary education partners. And I've done some work with KBOR and KSDE, asking them if we can decide which post-secondary institution we want to use and which we feel fits best in our local districts and with our local economy. So I've done a little bit of work there state-wise, and then locally, I with my program, it has a big presence in our community because we're constantly getting students involved in community events and community exposure. So I do a lot of speaking locally and working on gaining, just like a positive outlook on our school district. And then I report to our school board as well. So I work with our school board too. This assignment correlates to the standard because it gave me more knowledge about the levels of government and how they work with our public school system. It's necessary for good management of public schools and for also setting up schools for success. It's important when gathering and analyzing data to make plans, policies, and for the most important, support a positive school culture that leads to student success. I put the things in order like this. Management, I feel like would probably be first, most important, just a strong management, and more than management, I would really say leadership. And then next, I feel like operations systems. We use Skyward, we use Google. We're a Google school. We use eHall Pass. We have several different systems that we track and keep data on. So I think those are really important because those give us the things that we need to communicate. And so I put communication as third, and I think communication is super duper important. But you need the other things to make communication happen well. But I feel like good communication with a plan on how things will be communicated to the community is important. because strong communication leads to a positive culture within parents and community. And then technology, I just put as fourth because I don't really know why, but I feel like as important as it is, you can't have a lot of the operating systems without the technology, but that's just the order I kind of put them in. Relevancy, obviously very relevant to learning because I want to be effective. I want to be knowledgeable. I want to be smart about every level of government and how they pertain to education. After learning more about all of the levels, I still stick to my current view that government's role in education should be less and local should be more. I believe that that brings about the most growth, the strongest, um, economic development and partnerships between community and schools. I think this assignment really was the most relevant to me because I learned more about our local school board. I've never opened up the manual and looked at their policies, and our school board does a good job of having high accountability and providing good professional development. But they also, I feel, after reading this and studying this, that they do a little bit of micromanaging that they need to trust their building leadership a little bit more on. Yeah, and I just really hadn't taken the time to fully understand the school board's duties and responsibilities or the state boards. So now that I see areas where we need to improve and areas where they're doing great. This assignment will help me to continue to inform our local community about the great things that our districts are doing. It'll influence my decision as a future leader because I better understand the roles of government in all levels. And I want to work hard to meet expectations and support the local school board and help them bridge the gap between the community and the school. So I hope to do a good job of communicating with our community and our parents and as a building leader. And I also want to gain their support, more community support in our schools. I think that our community has a lot to offer our school districts. I feel like, team teaching and like my program does, providing job shadows and internships are so important, those work-based learning experiences. And then I want to be a good leader in everything I do. So I think these articles were really helpful for that too, so I can be a better leader. These are my references, and that's the end. So thanks for listening to me.